Hello, everyone. My name is Rick van Bruggen from Neo Technology, and here we are again recording a episode for our Neo4j Graph Database podcast. And tonight's session is being recorded all the way across the Atlantic, and I've got Aseem here, Aseem from 53. Hi, Aseem.
Hi, Rick. How you doing?
I'm doing really well, and you?
I'm doing great.
That's fantastic. So thanks for making the time, and again, apologies for me messing up the schedule twice.
No problem.
Thanks for coming online. So Aseem, would you mind introducing yourself to our audience here?
Sure. I'm Aseem Kishore. I'm an engineer here at a startup in New York called 53. We make an iPad app called Paper and a hardware stylus called Pencil and a collaboration service called Mix.
Yeah, wow. Yeah, and I've heard so much about it. I actually saw a pop-up store of 53 in the airport in London last week.
Right. Cool.
You guys are expanding very quickly, aren't you?
Yeah, trying to.
Yeah. How many people are at 53? Can you tell us about that?
Yeah, we actually crossed the 53 person mark maybe a couple months ago, so we're approaching 60 now, I think.
Fantastic. And you're based in East Coast US, right?
We're actually split between New York and Seattle, so most of our software is done in New York and most of our hardware is done in Seattle.
Okay. And what's your relationship to Neo4j, Aseem? Can you tell us about that?
Yeah, sure. We use Neo4j as our primary database for Mix, which is our collaboration service. And in general, from the start of the company, that's been the database that we've been building our backend services on.
Oh wow. Okay. So it's real time applications that you build on it. What kind of applications are those?
The biggest one is definitely Mix, which is basically you can think of it like a social network for ideas. So the sketches that people are creating in Paper, they can post them to Mix, and then the key feature that we have is that you can take another person's sketch or idea and expand on it. So we call that remixing.
Oh wow.
So we've built up this, not just a social graph, but really an idea graph or a creativity graph.
Uh-huh.
So you can see the evolution of ideas from just, for example, if you're a UI designer, you can see the evolution from just a simple wireframe all the way to all sorts of explorations and directions to take that wireframe in.
Wow. So it's a complete solution, starting at the pen to the app to the social platform.
Exactly, yeah.
Wow, very cool. So, and then how long have you been using Neo there for that then?
Mix has been in production for half a year. We were using Neo4j just for things like accounts and things like that before we had Mix for maybe a year before that.
Uh-huh.
And then, developing with it for another year before that.
Very cool. So why graphs? How did you come to how did you come to Neo? How did you come to graph databases, and why did you pick it? Could you expand on that?
Yeah, that's a good question. I mean, why graphs? The easiest answer is that we always had Mix in our sites, and with the idea of remixing, ideas can really go anywhere. They can go in all sorts of directions. So some of the examples we see on our own site are someone might publish a very useful template, let's say an agenda for the day. And so that will get a lot of direct remixes. So the shape of that tree will be very broad. And in other cases, we see a lot of back and forth collaboration happening. So, for example, a couple of architects working together might start with a simple sketch of a new house, and then they keep on adding different elements and tweaking things here and there, and so that can become a very long chain.
Yeah.
And then you see all sorts of things in between. So the whole notion of ideas can go anywhere, suggested to us that we needed to have an approach that was flexible to that.
Oh, and that's the graph model basically that delivers that, isn't it?
Exactly.
Yeah, fantastic. Okay, so and what has the experience been like so far? Has it been delivering on its promise?
In terms of the flexibility, it absolutely has. A good example is early on when we were still in a private beta for Mix, we were trying to decide how exactly we want to convey this idea of remixing to users. And initially, we started out kind of similar to, let's say, YouTube video comments, where when you're looking at a particular idea, you can see the remixes of that idea directly underneath it, and then you click on one of those, and you can see its remixes and so on. But then we realized that this is really too many clicks. A lot of times, you really want to get the whole story in one glance, And so we were able to very easily change our UI to show the entire tree of remixes on one page. And that was a very simple query change. We didn't have to change the way we store the data or denormalize it or anything like that. So in terms of that kind of flexibility, it absolutely has. One of the things we've been growing with is just running Neo4j in production at scale.
Yep.
So Mix is growing very quickly. We hit the million user mark. I forget the exact number off the top of my head, but I think it was within the first couple of months, which is pretty fast for a service. And we're continuing to see some pretty rapid growth. So we're just, now trying to learn how we can scale our cluster the most effectively.
Okay. And then have you been, working with some of the more recent versions of Neo then as well, or is that, all based on older versions, or I mean, how do you guys typically work that?
Yeah, good question. We try to stay pretty recent. We launched with Neo4j 2.1, and that's what we've been on. We're now just starting to experiment with 2.2.
Okay. Well, as you probably know, there's a lot of attention going in that direction at Neo. So I'm hoping
Yep.
that we're going to stay aligned over the next couple of months and years. It's going to be great, I hope.
Yeah.
So what does the future hold, Aseem? Where are you guys going? Where are graph databases going at 53? What do you think is in store for us?
Yeah, that's a good question. I guess for where 53 is going, there's obviously a lot I can't talk about, but in general, what we see our goal as is to enable all sorts of people to be creative. So not just people like designers and architects and artists, but software developers, business people, lawyers, financial advisors, investors, all these people that they don't think of their everyday job as being creative, but it turns out that in all these professions, there's a part of the process where creative thinking and being able to communicate visually and get your ideas down on paper is critical. And so these are the kinds of tools that we're building. And so we have some pretty big things planned for this year, and Neo4j is going to actually play a pretty significant part in some of these. So we're going to continue to kind of push the envelope on what we're able to get out of our graph database, even perhaps even more real time and perhaps even much more write throughput, for example, much more scale. And as far as where graph databases in general are going, I don't know that I can personally say, but what we've been really happy with is that the domain is so flexible that if we can make it work for us, we actually prefer to. So one thing we've been seeing at other companies is that Neo4j is often used as a secondary database. So for example, having talked to Medium, most of their core data is actually stored in Dynamo, but then they use Neo4j to store the specific relationships like following and recommendations.
Uh-huh.
And that approach makes sense, but for us, it's so convenient to have all of the data in Neo4j because now we can use it in queries. Our transactions are uniform, things like that. So we're going to continue to discover where exactly can't we use graph databases, and we're hoping that's not many places.
Fantastic. Well, I sure hope that, because graphs are so whiteboard friendly, that they would also be very paper friendly, right? That would be that would be
Exactly.
great.
Yeah.
And the visual aspect is definitely something that is a very very nice match with your thinking.
The
Well, it
fun
seems.
story is we just launched a new feature in paper, a new set of tools we call ThinkKit, which are all about diagramming and whiteboarding. And fun story is all of the kind of hand tuning of heuristics of shape recognition, all that stuff. One of the use cases was definitely drawing graphs, and a
Oh,
couple
no
of
way.
my Neo4j sketches were used in our internal testing, which is funny.
Well, I saw one of our guys, Michael Hunger, was already using it, so
Yep. Yep.
that was very cool. Well, thank you so much, Asim, for coming online and doing this recording with me. I really
No
appreciate
problem.
it.
Thank you, Nick.
We want to keep these things quite short, so I'm going to wrap up here, but not without thanking you again and hoping that we'll see each other someday at some Graph Connect conference or something. Yeah,
Great.
that'd be lovely. Thank you, Asim.
Yeah. Thank you, Rick. Take
All right.
care.